The morning sun rose over New Sol Colony like any other day. The small settlement on Kepler 442b was home to 2,000 humans who had traveled far from Earth to build a new life among the stars. The red dwarf sun cast a gentle orange glow across the metal buildings and growing fields that made up their world. Lee Dae-ho stood at his office window, watching the miners prepare for their morning shift. As colony administrator, he took pride in how peaceful their little world had become. No crime, no violence, just hard-working families building something good together. The biggest problem they faced was deciding which crops to plant in the new greenhouse sections. Down in the medical clinic, Dr. Park Ji-woo checked on her patients. The colony was healthy overall, but space life always brought small injuries and illnesses that needed care. She smiled as she bandaged a young boy's scraped knee. His mother, Mrs. Lim So-young, held her baby daughter while waiting her turn for routine checkups. "Dr. Park, when will my daddy come home from the mines?" the boy asked. "Soon, little one." "Your father works very hard to make our colony strong," Ji-woo replied gently. Across the settlement, Kim Tae-min was teaching 15 children in the colony school. Today's lesson was about Earth's history and why humans had decided to travel to other worlds. The children listened with wide eyes as he described the blue oceans and green forests of their original home planet. "Will we ever see Earth, Teacher Kim?" asked a girl named Hee-jin. "Maybe someday," Taemin said. "But remember, this is your home now. You are helping build humanity's future among the stars." At the mining site 5 kilometers from the main settlement, Choi Sang-wook and his crew were loading equipment onto transport vehicles. The work was hard but rewarding. The rare minerals they extracted would be traded with other human colonies and help fund expansion of their settlement. "Hey Sang-wook, did you hear the news from Earth?" asked miner Han Seok-jin. "They say there might be new colonies starting next year." "Good for them," Sang-wook replied. "But I like it here. Peace and quiet, honest work, and nobody bothering us." His friend Yoon Jae-sung laughed. "You just like being far away from your mother-in-law." The men joked and talked as they prepared for another day of mining. None of them knew that their peaceful world was about to change forever. Security Chief Kang Min-ho was making his morning rounds when the sensors picked up an approaching ship. At first he was not worried. Cargo ships and passenger transports visited the colony regularly. But something felt different about this one. The ship was larger than usual and moving in a pattern that suggested military training. Min-ho called up the colony's small defense systems, which were really just warning sensors and communication equipment. New Sol was a peaceful place with no enemies and no weapons worth mentioning. "Administrator Lee, we have an unknown ship approaching. It's not responding to our identification requests," Min-ho reported. Lee Dae-ho frowned as he looked at the sensor data. "Keep trying to contact them. Maybe their communications are damaged." The ship that descended toward New Sol Colony was sleek and dark, built for war rather than trade. It belonged to the Vorthak Empire, a military civilization that had been expanding aggressively through this part of the galaxy. The Vorthak were tall, powerful beings with gray skin and fierce yellow eyes. They believed that strength was the only thing that mattered in the universe. "Commander," Vorthak stood on his ship's bridge looking down at the human settlement with contempt. These soft creatures had built their little colony right in the middle of space that rightfully belonged to the Vorthak Empire. It was time to remind them who was in charge. "Sir, the humans are trying to communicate with us," reported his second-in-command. "Ignore them. Weak species do not deserve conversation with Vorthak warriors," Vorthak replied. "Prepare the landing force. We will inspect their facilities and make sure they understand their place." The Vorthak ship landed in the colony's main square, with engines that cracked the pavement and shook nearby buildings. 20 armed soldiers marched out, their weapons ready and their expressions cold. They wore heavy armor that made them look even more threatening than they already were. Security Chief Min-ho approached them carefully, his hands raised to show he carried no weapons. He had dealt with alien visitors before and knew that most situations could be solved with calm discussion. "Welcome to New Sol Colony," Min-ho said. "I am Chief of Security Kang Min-ho. How can we help you today?" Commander Vorthak looked down at the human with disgust. These creatures were so small and weak. How had they managed to spread across the galaxy when they could barely defend themselves? "You will surrender all weapons and mining equipment for inspection," Vorthak demanded. "This territory belongs to the Vorthak Empire now." Min-ho tried to stay calm even though his heart was beating faster. "Sir, this is a peaceful mining colony. We have no weapons except basic security equipment. Our mining tools are just for extracting minerals. Perhaps we can discuss this situation. There is nothing to discuss, Vorthek snarled. You will obey or face the consequences. At the medical clinic, Dr. Park Ji-woo heard the commotion outside and looked through her window. Her blood ran cold when she saw the armed aliens surrounding the colony buildings. She quickly moved to protect her patients, including Mrs. Lim and her baby daughter. In the school, teacher Kim Tae-min heard his students cry out in fear as the alien soldiers passed by their windows. He gathered the children in the back of the classroom and tried to keep them calm. Stay quiet and stay together, he whispered. Everything will be okay. But everything was not okay. The situation spiraled out of control when engineer Song Hye-jin tried to activate the colony's emergency communication system to call for help. A Vorthak soldier saw her working at the communications equipment and assumed she was preparing some kind of weapon. Hostile action detected, the soldier shouted in the Vorthak language. Commander, Vorthak made the decision that would change everything. Eliminate the threats. Show these humans what happens when they resist the Vorthak Empire. The aliens opened fire without warning. Dr. Park Ji-woo died protecting her patients, using her body to shield Mrs. Lim and the baby. Teacher Kim Tae-min fell while trying to protect his students from the soldiers who burst into his classroom. Security Chief Minho was shot down while still trying to negotiate. At the mining site, Han Seok-jin and Yoon Jae-sung died, trying to defend their fellow workers. Engineer Song Hee-jin never finished sending her distress signal. Mrs. Lim So-young was killed while holding her infant daughter, who survived only because her mother's body protected her from the alien weapons. In 10 terrible minutes, 7 innocent people were dead, and the peaceful colony was in ruins. The Vorthak soldiers searched the settlement, took what they wanted, and prepared to leave. To them, it had been a minor police action against some troublesome humans. Commander Vorthak filed his report as the ship lifted off. Eliminated 7 hostile elements threatening Imperial patrol. Resistance was minimal. Colony pacified. No further action required. The Vorthak had no idea what they had just started. They thought they had solved a small problem by killing a few weak humans. Instead, they had awakened something in humanity that would shake the entire galaxy. As the alien ship disappeared into space, the survivors of New Seoul Colony gathered around their dead. Administrator Lee Dae-ho knelt beside the bodies of his friends and neighbors, his hands shaking with grief and rage. The baby girl who had survived in her mother's arms would grow up in a galaxy where humans were no longer seen as weak and peaceful. But first, Earth would have to decide how to respond to the murder of 7 innocent people. The message was already racing through quantum space toward humanity's homeworld, carrying news that would change everything. The quantum message from New Seoul Colony reached Earth Defense Command at exactly 14:30 Geneva time. Communications Officer Lieutenant Park Soo-min stared at her screen in horror as the emergency transmission decoded. Her hands trembled as she read the casualty report over and over, hoping she had made a mistake. Admiral Yu, urgent message from Kepler Colony, she called across the command center. Her voice cracked on the words. Admiral Yu Sung-min looked up from the tactical displays he was reviewing. He had been planning routine patrol schedules for the outer colonies. Nothing important, nothing that could not wait. But the expression on Lieutenant Park's face told him everything had just changed. What is it, Lieutenant? 7 dead, sir. Civilians, killed by alien forces. She handed him the decoded message with shaking hands. Admiral Yu read the report twice before the full meaning hit him. Dr. Park Ji-woo, shot while protecting her patients. Kim Tae-min killed defending school children. Security Chief Kang Min-ho, murdered while trying to negotiate. The names went on, each one representing a life cut short by alien aggression. Get me President An immediately, the Admiral ordered. And contact General Nam. We need an emergency council meeting within the hour. The news spread through Earth's government like wildfire. President An Kyung-soo was meeting with agricultural ministers about crop production when his aide burst into the room with the report. The president read it once, then stood up slowly. Cancel all my appointments for the rest of the day, he said quietly. And get me a direct line to every colony commander in human space. They need to know what happened. Within 2 hours, the emergency session of Earth's Defense Council was underway. The room was filled with the most powerful military and political leaders of humanity. Holographic displays showed the location of New Seoul Colony and the estimated patrol routes of Vorthak forces. General Nam Yun-jung, commander of Earth's Special Forces, stood before the council with barely controlled anger. She had served in the military for 20 years and had never seen anything like this unprovoked attack on civilians. "The evidence is clear," she reported. Vorthak forces landed at New Sol Colony without warning. They made demands for surrender of equipment and territory. When our people tried to communicate or call for help, the aliens opened fire. 7 innocent civilians died in what can only be called a massacre. Director Li Huan-su of Colonial Intelligence added his analysis. The Vorthak Patrol filed a standard report claiming they eliminated hostile threats. To them, this was routine police work. They do not seem to understand the significance of what they have done. Admiral Yu activated the holographic display showing images from New Sol Colony. The council members sat in stunned silence as they watched footage of the attack's aftermath. Bodies covered with sheets. Crying children. Buildings damaged by alien weapons. "How do we respond to this?" asked Foreign Minister Kim Ye-jin. "The Vorthak Empire is a major military power. They have hundreds of worlds and thousands of ships." President An stood up slowly. His face was pale, but his voice was steady. "Before we decide anything, I want to try diplomacy first. Contact the Vorthak government. Request an immediate explanation and demand justice for our dead." The response came within 6 hours. Vorthak Ambassador Kethral delivered the Empire's official statement to Earth's embassy on the key, neutral world of Centauri Prime. Ambassador Kara Wei-ling read it with growing disbelief. The Vorthak Empire regrets the unfortunate loss of life during a routine security operation. However, our forces acted appropriately when faced with potential threats to Imperial personnel. The matter is considered closed. The Empire will not discuss this incident further. When Ambassador Kara's report reached Earth, the reaction was immediate and furious. President An called another emergency session. This time, the mood in the council chamber was very different. "They called the murder of our people unfortunate," President An said, his voice tight with controlled rage. "They say it was appropriate. They consider the matter closed." General Nam slammed her hand on the table. 7 innocent people died and they call it routine security work. This cannot stand. Admiral Yu pulled up tactical displays showing Vorthak military positions throughout known space. "Sir, we have 47 registered encounters with Vorthak forces in the past year. All of them involved their soldiers making demands and expecting immediate compliance. They believe we are a weak species that will always back down." Defense Minister Oh Jin-woo studied the star charts. "What are our options, Admiral? We could file complaints with the Galactic Council, but that process takes years and rarely results in meaningful action. We could impose trade restrictions, but the Vorthak economy does not depend much on human commerce. Or we could respond in a way that makes our position perfectly clear." President An looked around the room at the faces of Earth's leaders. These were reasonable people who had spent decades building peaceful relationships with alien civilizations. They were diplomats, not warmongers. But sometimes diplomacy was not enough. "What exactly are you suggesting, Admiral?" Admiral Yu activated a new display showing the locations of human military forces throughout the galaxy. "We have ships and personnel in every major sector. Our forces are well-trained and well-equipped. We could implement a new engagement protocol specifically for Vorthak military personnel. Explain. Any Vorthak soldier encountered by human forces would be classified as a hostile combatant and eliminated on sight. No negotiations. No warnings. No prisoners. We make it clear that the murder of human civilians has consequences." The room fell silent. What the Admiral was suggesting went against everything humanity had stood for in their expansion to the stars. Humans were known for being peaceful traders and diplomats, not aggressive warriors. Foreign Minister Kim spoke first. "That would essentially be a declaration of war against their military forces." "Not war," corrected General Nam. "Justice. They have shown that they believe human lives have no value. We would simply be clarifying the value of theirs." President An walked to the window overlooking Lake Geneva. The peaceful waters reflected the afternoon sun, reminding him of the quiet life that humans had built on Earth and carried to the stars. A life that the Vorthak had shattered with their casual violence. How long would such a policy remain in effect? He asked. "Until the Vorthak Empire provides full accountability for their actions," Admiral Yu replied. "An apology, compensation for the families, and punishment for the soldiers responsible. Until then, Any Vorthak military personnel encountered by human forces would face immediate elimination. The debate continued for hours. Some council members argued for more diplomatic efforts. Others worried about the reaction of other alien species. But as the discussion went on, one fact became clear. 7 innocent humans were dead, and their killers felt no remorse. Finally, President An called for a vote. The decision was unanimous. That evening, President An addressed the nation and all human colonies in a broadcast that would be remembered throughout history. My fellow humans, today we learned that 7 of our people were murdered on New Sol Colony by soldiers of the Vorthak Empire. They were killed without provocation, without warning, and without mercy. Dr. Park Ji-woo died protecting her patients. Teacher Kim Tae-min died protecting his students. Security Chief Kang Min-ho died trying to find a peaceful solution. The president paused, looking directly into the camera. The Vorthak Empire has refused to provide justice or even acknowledge wrongdoing. They consider the murder of our people to be routine and appropriate. Therefore, effective immediately. Any Vorthak military personnel encountered by human forces will be considered hostile combatants and eliminated on sight. This policy will remain in effect until the Empire provides full accountability for their actions. The broadcast ended with a simple statement that would echo across the galaxy. We will not allow the murder of innocent humans to go unanswered. Within hours, new orders went out to every human military unit in space. Captain Ro Sung-hwa of the Elite Rangers received his instructions with grim satisfaction. Lieutenant Commander Bae Hyo-rin memorized the updated engagement protocols. Throughout human space, professional soldiers prepared to implement humanity's response to the Kepler colony massacre. The Vorthak Empire had dismissed humans as weak creatures who would never fight back. They were about to learn how wrong they were. The first test of Earth's new policy came just 3 days after President An's declaration. Nexus Station was a massive trading post located in neutral space where dozens of alien species came to buy and sell goods. The station was shaped like a giant wheel spinning slowly in the darkness between stars. Lieutenant Commander Bae Hyo-rin had been assigned to provide security for human diplomatic missions at Nexus Station. She was a professional soldier with 10 years of experience keeping peace in difficult situations. Her small team of 8 Marines was well trained but had never been in real combat. On this particular morning, Bae was reviewing security reports when her communications officer reported incoming ships. 3 vessels were approaching the station's docking bays. The largest one was a Vorthak patrol cruiser. "Ma'am, we have a Vorthak military ship requesting permission to board and inspect human cargo vessels," reported Sergeant Cho Min-sik. Bae felt her heart rate increase. She had memorized her new orders word for word. Any Vorthak military personnel encountered by human forces were to be eliminated on sight. No negotiations, no warnings, no exceptions. "How many soldiers on that ship, Sergeant?" Sensors showed 12 armed Vorthak troops preparing for boarding operations. Bae activated her communicator and contacted the human freighter, Busan Pride, which was docked at the station. Captain Oh Dong-hyun answered immediately. "Captain Oh, this is Lieutenant Commander Bae. You are to remain on your ship and keep your crew away from the docking bay. Do not allow any Vorthak personnel to board under any circumstances." "But Commander, they have legal authority to inspect cargo in neutral space. I do not want to cause trouble." "Captain, my orders are very clear. Stay on your ship and let my team handle this situation." Bae gathered her Marines in the station's security office. These were good soldiers who had served with her for years. She looked at each face and saw the same mix of determination and nervousness that she felt. "You all know our new orders regarding Vorthak military personnel. Today we put those orders into action. Remember your training and follow my lead." The Vorthak boarding party marched through Nexus Station like they owned the place. Squad leader Velkoth was a veteran soldier who had conducted hundreds of these inspections. Humans always submitted to Vorthak authority. They were weak creatures who preferred talking to fighting. Velkoth's troops wore full combat armor and carried heavy weapons designed to intimidate anyone who might resist. Their yellow eyes scanned the busy corridors of the trading station, looking for signs of trouble. They found none. Station Commander Telvan watched nervously from his control center. The Altarian diplomat had managed Nexus Station for 15 years and had seen many tense situations. But something felt different about today. The human security team was acting strangely. Sir, the humans have positioned themselves between the Vorthak patrol and their cargo ship, reported his security chief. That is unusual. Humans normally cooperate with Vorthak inspections. Perhaps there is some misunderstanding. Velkoth approached the docking bay where the Busan Pride was berthed. His soldiers spread out in standard formation, weapons ready. He expected to see the usual scene, frightened humans backing away and apologizing for any inconvenience. Instead, he found Lieutenant Commander Bay and her Marines, standing in a line blocking access to the human ship. The humans were armed but not pointing their weapons. Yet. You will stand aside, Velkoth commanded in broken human language. Vorthak Empire has authority to inspect all vessels. Bay looked at the alien squad leader calmly. She had trained for this moment but had never expected it to come so soon. Her orders were crystal clear. These were armed Vorthak military personnel in a location where human forces operated. I cannot allow you to proceed, she replied. Velkoth was confused. Humans did not refuse Vorthak commands. It simply did not happen. Perhaps this female did not understand the situation. You are weak species. You will obey or face punishment, he growled. Bay raised her weapon. Behind her, 8 Marine rifles swung up to target the Vorthak soldiers. The movement was smooth and professional, like they had practiced it 1,000 times. By order of Earth Defense Command, you are classified as hostile combatants. You have 5 seconds to surrender your weapons. Velkoth stared at the humans in shock. No one had ever spoken to Vorthak soldiers this way. His troops raised their own weapons, creating a tense standoff in the busy corridor of the trading station. You dare threaten Vorthak warriors? Velkoth snarled. 4 seconds, Bay replied calmly. Other species in the corridor began backing away quickly. A group of Zephyrian traders ducked behind cargo containers. Crystalline merchants rolled their mineral bodies into defensive positions. Even the station's security forces stayed back, unsure of what to do. 3 seconds. Velkoth could not believe what was happening. These humans had clearly lost their minds. Did they not understand that the Vorthak Empire had the strongest military in the galaxy? 2 seconds. The alien squad leader raised his weapon to fire. It was the last mistake he ever made. Lieutenant Commander Bay opened fire without hesitation. Her rifle discharged a precise burst that dropped Velkoth instantly. Behind her, 8 Marine weapons fired in perfect coordination. The entire Vorthak patrol was eliminated in less than 3 seconds. The silence that followed was deafening. Smoke drifted from the human weapons as Bay and her team maintained their positions. 12 Vorthak soldiers lay dead in the corridor of Nexus Station. Not one human had been injured. Station Commander Telvan stared at his monitors in complete shock. In 15 years of managing the station, he had never seen anything like this. Humans had just killed an entire Vorthak patrol without warning or negotiation. Get me the Galactic Council emergency line, he ordered his communications officer, and send word to every government in the sector. Everything has just changed. Captain Oh Dong-hyun emerged from his ship to find the corridor filled with alien bodies. He looked at Lieutenant Commander Bay with a mixture of awe and fear. Commander, what have you done? I followed my orders, Bay replied simply. These were armed Vorthak military personnel attempting to board a human vessel. They have been eliminated as directed. Word of the Nexus Station incident spread through alien communication networks faster than light-speed travel. The news was shocking. Humans had killed Vorthak soldiers without provocation or warning, but humans saw it differently. To them, Lieutenant Commander Bay had simply carried out Earth's new policy. 7 innocent civilians had been murdered on New Sol Colony. The Empire responsible had refused to provide justice. Now Vorthak soldiers would face the consequences of their government's actions. The Vorthak Empire's response was swift and predictable. Fleet Commander Zormek received orders to dispatch additional patrols to teach the humans proper respect. The Empire's leaders could not believe that such a weak species would dare to challenge Vorthak authority. Double our patrol strength in sectors with human presence, ordered War Minister Kethamorian. These creatures need to learn their place in the galactic order. But something had changed in the galaxy's balance of power. As news of the Nexus Station killings reached Earth, President An issued a simple statement. The elimination of Vorthak military personnel at Nexus Station was carried out in accordance with current Earth defense protocols. This policy remains in full effect. We recommend that the Vorthak Empire reconsider their position regarding accountability for the New Sol Colony massacre. Lieutenant, Commander Bay and her Marines were quietly transferred to new assignments. Their action at Nexus Station became the first entry in what would become a very long list. The hunt had begun. News of the Nexus Station incident spread across human space like wildfire. Every military commander received updated tactical briefings within hours. The message was clear. Earth was serious about its new policy. Vorthak soldiers would be eliminated wherever they were found. Commander Shin Yu-jin received her orders while her fighter squadron was patrolling the outer rim of the Kepler system. She had been flying combat missions for 8 years but had never been in a real war. Her 12 pilots were among the best in the human fleet, trained for precision strikes and quick escapes. Wolfpack Squadron, this is Control. We have detected a Vorthak patrol ship entering your sector. 3 enemy fighters and 1 command vessel. You are authorized to engage under current protocols. Shin checked her weapon systems and activated her squadron's tactical network. Her pilots fell into formation without needing orders. They had practiced this maneuver hundreds of times but never with live targets. Remember, we are not trying to capture territory or destroy their fleet, she told her pilots over the comm. Our mission is simple. Eliminate Vorthak military personnel. Fast, clean, and efficient. The Vorthak patrol was routine reconnaissance, checking shipping routes and looking for signs of human expansion. Captain Morthek had performed this mission dozens of times. Humans were traders and colonists, not warriors. They had never posed any real threat to Vorthak operations. Sir, we have human fighters approaching on an intercept course, reported his sensor operator. Probably want to talk, Morthek replied dismissively. These creatures always want to negotiate about something. Ignore them unless they interfere with our mission. Commander Shin locked her weapons onto the lead Vorthak fighter. Her targeting computer confirmed that the alien ship carried military-grade weapons and armor. The pilots inside were armed Vorthak soldiers operating in space where humans had interests. She fired without warning or communication. The lead Vorthak fighter exploded in a brilliant flash. Before the aliens could react, 11 more human weapons fired in perfect coordination. The entire patrol was destroyed in less than 10 seconds. No survivors. No wreckage large enough to contain living beings. Captain Morthek's final transmission was a panicked warning to Vorthak Fleet Command. Human attack without provocation. They have gone completely insane. All units avoid contact with human forces. On the ground, human Marines were implementing the new policy with equal efficiency. Staff Sergeant Park Do-hyun led a platoon providing security for a trade conference on the mining world of Kepler Prime. The planet was home to dozens of alien species who came to negotiate mineral rights and shipping contracts. Park's men were experienced soldiers who had served in peacekeeping operations across human space. They were trained to handle difficult situations without violence, but their orders regarding Vorthak personnel were very specific. Sergeant, we have a Vorthak intelligence team setting up surveillance equipment near the human delegation quarters, reported Corporal Kim Jin-woo. Park studied the sensor readings. 4 Vorthak soldiers in light armor carrying weapons and electronic equipment. They were clearly military personnel conducting operations on a world where humans had legitimate business interests. Full combat gear men. We move in 5 minutes. The Vorthak intelligence team thought they were invisible. Their mission was to gather information about human trade activities and report back to Fleet Command. They had set up listening devices and hidden cameras around the conference center. Team leader Velkorian was a veteran spy who had conducted similar operations on dozens of worlds. Humans were predictable creatures who talked too much and noticed too little. Gathering intelligence on them was almost boring. His team was packing up their equipment when human Marines surrounded their position. The aliens found themselves facing 12 rifles aimed by soldiers who showed no emotion and asked no questions. Surrender your weapons immediately, Park ordered. Velkorian was confused. Humans did not normally interfere with Vorthak intelligence operations. Most species preferred to avoid confrontation with the Empire's forces. We are conducting legitimate reconnaissance under Imperial authority, he replied. You have no right to interfere. Park did not respond to the alien's words. His orders were clear and simple. These were armed Vorthak military personnel operating in a location where human forces had responsibility for security. The Marines opened fire in perfect synchronization. 4 Vorthak spies died instantly. Their equipment was left untouched, but the soldiers who operated it were eliminated completely. Park reported the incident to his commanding officer with professional calm. 4 Vorthak military personnel eliminated while conducting unauthorized surveillance operations. No human casualties. Mission complete. In space, Captain Kim Woo-bin commanded the stealth ship Seoul's Vengeance. His vessel was designed for reconnaissance and special operations, equipped with the most advanced sensors and weapons in the human fleet. His crew of 20 specialists could track targets across multiple star systems. Captain, we have located a Vorthak transport convoy heading for the Centauri sector, reported his navigation officer. 3 cargo ships and 1 military escort. Kim studied the sensor data carefully. The convoy was carrying civilian passengers and trade goods, but it was protected by a Vorthak military vessel with armed soldiers aboard. Plot and intercept course. We engage the escort only. Let the civilian ships continue their journey. The Seoul's Vengeance approached the convoy using advanced stealth technology. The Vorthak escort never detected the human ship until it was too late. Kim's weapons officer disabled the alien warship's engines and life support systems with surgical precision. Boarding party. Prepare for assault, Kim ordered. 12 human Marines in full combat armor boarded the crippled Vorthak ship. They moved through the corridor systematically, eliminating every soldier they found. The ship's civilian crew members were left unharmed and provided with emergency life support. Within an hour, the Vorthak escort was empty of military personnel. The civilian cargo ships continued their journey with a warning to report what they had witnessed to their government. These incidents repeated across dozens of star systems. Human forces tracked down Vorthak patrols, intelligence teams, and military transports with frightening efficiency. The pattern was always the same: quick, precise elimination of soldiers with minimal damage to civilian targets. The psychological effect on Vorthak forces was devastating. Soldiers who had once moved freely through space now traveled in heavily armed convoys. Many refused assignments to sectors with human presence. Morale dropped as reports came in of entire patrols disappearing without explanation. Fleet Commander Zormek studied the casualty reports with growing alarm. In just 2 weeks, the Empire had lost over 300 military personnel to human attacks. The humans were not trying to conquer territory or destroy infrastructure. They were simply killing Vorthak soldiers wherever they found them. Sir, our forces are requesting permission to avoid sectors with human activity, reported his intelligence chief. Absolutely not, Zormek replied angrily. We are the Vorthak Empire. We do not run from weak creatures like humans. But privately, the fleet commander was beginning to understand that humans were not as weak as the Empire had believed. Their coordination was perfect. Their intelligence was accurate. Their weapons were precisely targeted. Most disturbing of all, they showed no emotion during combat. They killed Vorthak soldiers like they were solving mathematical problems. Meanwhile, other alien species watched the systematic elimination of Vorthak forces with fascination and horror. The peaceful traders and diplomats known as humans had transformed into something completely different. Overnight, Ambassador Serendai of the Altarian Collective filed reports with the Galactic Council describing humanity's new military capabilities. They do not fight like warriors seeking glory or conquest. They fight like engineers solving a technical problem. The precision is terrifying. The Zephyrian hive mind struggled to understand how individual humans could coordinate their actions across vast distances without central control. The crystalline communes attempted to negotiate peace between the two species, but found that humans had no interest in discussion. Captain Ro Sung-hwa's Rangers received new assignments every day. His elite unit tracked high-value Vorthak targets across multiple star systems. Each mission ended the same way: professional elimination of enemy personnel with textbook precision. Sir, we have eliminated another Vorthak intelligence cell, he reported to Earth Command. 12 soldiers killed. No human casualties, minimal collateral damage. Admiral Yu Sung-min reviewed the operational reports with satisfaction. Earth's forces were implementing the new policy exactly as intended. Vorthak soldiers were being eliminated systematically while civilian populations remained unharmed. The hunt had only just begun, but already the balance of power in the galaxy was shifting. The Empire that had casually murdered 7 humans on New Sol Colony was learning that some species should never be provoked without cause. The emergency session of the Galactic Council was called after 3 weeks of systematic elimination of Vorthak forces by human military units. Representatives from 47 different species gathered on Centauri Station to discuss what many were calling the most disturbing development in galactic politics for centuries. Ambassador Kara Whiting stood before the massive circular chamber, where alien diplomats sat in judgment of humanity's actions. She had served as Earth's representative to the Galactic Council for 5 years, and had always been able to resolve conflicts through peaceful discussion. Today would be very different. The chamber buzzed with dozens of alien languages as species debated among themselves. Some supported Earth's response to the massacre on New Sol Colony. Others were horrified by the systematic killing of Vorthak soldiers. All of them were trying to understand how humans had changed so dramatically in such a short time. Council Speaker Veltaran of the Altarian Collective called the session to order. The tall, graceful alien had managed galactic diplomacy for decades, and had never faced a situation like this one. Ambassador Kara, you are here to explain your species' recent military actions. The Council has received reports of over 400 Vorthak military casualties caused by human forces in the past month. Many of our member species are concerned about the level of violence being employed. Kara stood calmly before the assembled aliens. She had prepared for this moment and knew exactly what she needed to say. Honored representatives, Earth's actions are a direct response to the unprovoked massacre of 7 innocent civilians on New Sol Colony. The Vorthak Empire murdered our people without warning or justification, then refused to provide any accountability for their actions. The Zephyrian representative, a collective consciousness speaking through multiple bodies, responded first. We understand your anger over the deaths, but your response seems far beyond reasonable proportions. 7 deaths have now led to hundreds of Vorthak casualties. 437 to be precise, Kara replied. All of them armed military personnel who were eliminated while operating in sectors where human interests are present. Not one civilian casualty has been caused by our forces. Ambassador Thekmaran of the Crystalline Communes rolled forward on his mineral base. His species communicated through harmonic vibrations that the translation system converted to audible speech. The mathematical precision of your species' response is unprecedented. Your forces coordinate across impossible distances with perfect timing. This level of military organization suggests capabilities that were previously unknown to the galactic community. Kara nodded. Humans have always possessed strong organizational abilities. We simply had no reason to demonstrate them in military operations until the Vorthak Empire forced our hand. The representative from the Void Dancers, a species that existed partially in normal space and partially in other dimensions, spoke through their translator device. We have withdrawn our trading fleets from all sectors where human forces operate. Your species has become unpredictable and dangerous. The peaceful humans we knew no longer exist. We remain peaceful toward all species except those who murder our civilians without cause. Kara responded firmly. The Vorthak Empire chose to demonstrate that they believe human lives have no value. We are simply clarifying the value of theirs. The debate continued for hours as different species expressed their concerns and confusion. The tentacled philosophers of Rigel argued that humanity's response violated principles of proportional justice. The singing crystals of Vega claimed that such coordinated violence was impossible for individual-based species to achieve. Throughout the discussion, one fact became increasingly clear. No other species in the galaxy had ever seen anything like humanity's response to the massacre. Most civilizations would have filed formal complaints, imposed trade sanctions, or negotiated for decades through diplomatic channels. Humans had declared war on Vorthak military forces and begun systematically eliminating them with terrifying efficiency. Ambassador Sarandai of the Altarian Collective raised a question that many species were thinking. Ambassador Kara, your people were known throughout the galaxy for being peaceful traders and diplomats. How do you explain this sudden transformation into a military power? Kara considered her answer carefully. We were never weak, Ambassador Sarandai. We simply preferred peaceful solutions to our problems. When the Vorthak Empire made peaceful solutions impossible, we adapted our approach. But the level of coordination your forces display is beyond anything we have seen from individual-based species. Your military units operate as if controlled by a hive mind, yet you maintain individual consciousness. How is this possible? Humans have a saying, an injury to one is an injury to all. When 7 of our people were murdered, every human in the galaxy felt that loss personally. Our response reflects that shared commitment to protecting our own. The Vorthak representative, War Minister Keth Morian, had remained silent throughout most of the session. Finally, he stood to address the council with barely controlled rage. The human response is completely disproportionate to the incident that triggered it. 7 criminals were eliminated during a legitimate security operation. Our forces acted appropriately when faced with potential threats. The chamber fell silent. Even species that had been critical of human actions were shocked by the alien's words. He had just called the massacre victims criminals and claimed their deaths were appropriate. Ambassador Kara's response was delivered with ice-cold precision. War Minister, you have just demonstrated exactly why Earth's current policy will continue. You called Dr. Park Ji-woo a criminal for treating patients. You call teacher Kim Tae-min a criminal for educating children. You call Security Chief Kang Min-ho a criminal for attempting peaceful negotiation. She paused to let her words sink in before continuing. Every human who dies from this moment forward, the Vorthak Empire will no doubt call appropriate elimination of criminals. Since your government refuses to distinguish between innocent civilians and legitimate threats, Earth has decided to stop making that distinction regarding your military personnel. The War Minister's face darkened with fury. You dare threaten the Vorthak Empire? We have the largest military force in the galaxy. And yet your soldiers now travel in heavily armed convoys because they are terrified of encountering individual human units. Kara replied calmly. Your patrol networks are collapsing. Your allies question your competence. How is that working out for your large military force? Several alien representatives exchanged glances at this exchange. The human ambassador was stating facts that everyone in the chamber knew to be true. Vorthak forces were avoiding confrontation with humans whenever possible. Council Speaker Vel Taran attempted to restore order to the session. Ambassador Kara, what would it take for Earth to end this policy of eliminating Vorthak military personnel? The terms have not changed since President On's original declaration. Full accountability for the New Sol Colony massacre, public apology for the deaths, compensation for the families of the victims, punishment for the soldiers responsible. Until these conditions are met, any Vorthak military personnel encountered by human forces will be eliminated. And if the Vorthak Empire refuses these terms? Kara's expression remained completely calm. Then Earth will continue implementing current policy until the Empire changes its position. We are prepared to maintain this approach indefinitely. The War Minister stood up angrily. This council should condemn human aggression and demand an immediate end to attacks on Vorthak forces. But when the formal vote was taken, the results surprised everyone. 18 species voted to condemn human actions. 21 voted to support Earth's right to respond to the massacre. 8 species abstained, unsure of how to handle the unprecedented situation. The Galactic Council had failed to reach consensus for the first time in over a century. As the session ended, Ambassador Kara filed her report to Earth. Galactic opinion is divided but leaning toward support for our position. Other species are beginning to understand that the Vorthak Empire's casual attitude toward civilian casualties affects everyone's security. The failure of the Galactic Council to condemn human action sent a clear message throughout the galaxy. Humanity was no longer seen as a weak species that could be pushed around without consequences. Even their former reputation for peaceful diplomacy now seemed like a choice rather than weakness. Fleet Commander Zormek received reports of the council session with growing despair. The Empire's diplomatic position was collapsing along with their military effectiveness. Species that had once respected Vorthak power now questioned whether the Empire could protect its own forces from a single human species. Sir, morale among our troops has reached critical levels, reported his chief of staff. Many units are requesting transfers away from sectors with human presence. Meanwhile, across human space, military commanders continued implementing Earth's policy with mechanical precision. Every day brought new reports of Vorthak casualties. Every day the Empire's position in the galaxy grew weaker. The transformation of humanity from peaceful traders to systematic hunters had shocked the galaxy. But what truly terrified other species was the realization that humans had always possessed. 3 months after the massacre on New Sol Colony, Emperor Vorthkalan sat in his throne room staring at reports that would have been unthinkable just a year ago. The Vorthak Empire, master of hundreds of worlds and thousands of ships, was being systematically dismantled by a single species that most aliens had considered weak and peaceful. The numbers were staggering. Over 800 Vorthak military personnel had been eliminated by human forces. Not captured, not defeated in battle, simply killed with surgical precision wherever they were found. Entire patrol networks had collapsed. Military commanders refused assignments to sectors with human presence. General Kethvaran, the Empire's most experienced military leader, stood before his emperor with news that would have been impossible to believe 6 months ago. My lord, we can no longer deploy forces effectively in 30% of our traditional patrol areas. Human hunters track our movements with impossible accuracy. They strike without warning and leave no survivors. How can one species coordinate attacks across such vast distances? The emperor demanded. Their communication networks are no better than ours. That is what makes them so dangerous, my lord. They do not need central coordination. Every human unit operates as if they share the same mind, yet they maintain individual decision-making capabilities. It is unlike anything we have encountered. The emperor studied tactical displays showing the locations of recent human attacks. The pattern was clear and terrifying. Humans were not trying to conquer Vorthak territory or destroy their infrastructure. They were simply removing Vorthak soldiers from existence with methodical efficiency. What do our allies say about this situation? General Kethvaran's expression darkened. Many are questioning our military competence, my lord. The Rigel Confederation has withdrawn from joint patrol agreements. The Outer Rim Coalition is reconsidering their defense treaties. They believe that if we cannot protect our own forces from humans, we cannot protect theirs either. War Minister Kethmorian entered the throne room, carrying another stack of casualty reports. His confidence from the early days of the conflict had been replaced by barely controlled panic. My lord, I must recommend immediate withdrawal of all military forces from sectors with human activity. Our losses are becoming unsustainable. Emperor Vorthkallen slammed his fist on the arm of his throne. The Vorthak had ruled through strength for over 1,000 years. They had never retreated from any conflict, never shown weakness to inferior species. We are the Vorthak Empire. We do not flee from creatures who should be serving us. With respect, my lord, these creatures are killing us faster than we can replace our losses. The War Minister replied. Every patrol we send out faces elimination. Every intelligence operation ends in failure. Our soldiers are terrified to leave their bases. The Emperor turned to his intelligence chief for a different perspective. What is the human government saying about ending this conflict? Their position has not changed since the beginning, my lord. Full accountability for the New Soul Colony incident. Public apology. Compensation for the families. Punishment for those responsible. Until these demands are met, they will continue eliminating our military personnel on site. And if we meet their demands, then they return to their previous peaceful behavior. Our intelligence suggests that humans genuinely prefer diplomatic solutions to their problems. But once they commit to a course of action, they pursue it with absolute determination. The Emperor considered his options. The Vorthak Empire had never apologized to another species for anything. Their entire culture was built on the idea that strength was the only thing that mattered in the universe. To give in to human demands would be seen as ultimate weakness. But the alternative was watching his empire slowly collapse as human forces eliminated his military, wherever they operated. How many species in the galaxy now support the human position? He asked. 28 have officially endorsed Earth's right to respond to civilian casualties. 15 others maintain neutral positions but lean toward human arguments. Only 12 species still support our original position that the incident was justified. The numbers told a story that the Emperor could not ignore. The galaxy's opinion had shifted dramatically in favor of humanity. Species that had once respected Vorthak power now saw them as dangerous aggressors who killed civilians without cause. A communication alert interrupted the meeting. The Emperor's aide announced that Ambassador Kara Wailing was requesting an immediate audience. She claimed to have a final proposal from Earth's government. Bring her in, the Emperor decided. Let us hear what the humans have to say. Ambassador Kara entered the throne room with calm confidence. She had spent weeks preparing for this moment, knowing that the entire future of human-Vorthak relations depended on what happened in the next few minutes. Your Imperial Majesty, I come with a direct message from President An Kyung-soo of Earth. Speak your message. Human. Earth recognizes that the Vorthak Empire has suffered significant military losses during the past 3 months. We are prepared to end current operations immediately, if your government meets our stated conditions. Emperor Vorthkalan studied the small human diplomat who stood before his throne without fear or submission. 3 months ago, he would have dismissed her as a weak creature whose species deserved no consideration. Now he knew better. What assurance do we have that human attacks will truly end if we comply with your demands? Earth's word has never been broken, Your Majesty. When we make agreements, we honor them completely. More importantly, we prefer peaceful solutions to all conflicts. The current policy was implemented only because peaceful solutions were made impossible. The Emperor looked around the throne room at his military advisors. All of them were waiting for his decision. The choice was clear. Accept the human demands or watch his empire slowly collapse under the systematic elimination of his forces. If we agree to your terms, how quickly would human attacks cease? Immediately upon your public acknowledgement of wrongdoing and commitment to our conditions. Earth has no desire to continue military operations once justice has been achieved. The silence in the throne room lasted for several minutes. Finally, Emperor Vorthkalan made the decision that would save his empire, but forever change its position in the galaxy. Very well. The Vorthak Empire acknowledges that our forces acted inappropriately on New Sol Colony. We will provide compensation to the families of those killed and punish the soldiers responsible for the incident. Ambassador Kara nodded respectfully. Earth accepts your acknowledgement, Your Majesty. I will relay your decision to President An immediately. Within hours, the news spread across the galaxy through quantum communication networks. The Vorthak Empire, one of the most powerful military forces in known space, had publicly surrendered to human demands. President An's response was broadcast to every human military unit simultaneously. Operation Payback is hereby terminated. All forces will return to standard defensive protocols. The Vorthak Empire has provided the accountability we demanded for the New Sol Colony massacre. The change was immediate and dramatic. Human forces that had been hunting Vorthak soldiers for months simply stopped and returned to their normal duties. The systematic elimination of alien military personnel ended as quickly as it had begun. Admiral Yu Sung-min addressed his commanders across human space. Today we prove that Earth will not tolerate the murder of innocent civilians. 7 humans died on New Sol Colony, but their deaths have ensured that no other species will casually attack human settlements. Captain Ro Sung-hwa's Rangers received orders to resume normal patrol duties. Lieutenant Commander Bae Hyo-rin returned to diplomatic security missions. Commander Shin Yu-jin's fighter squadron went back to routine training exercises. The transformation was as complete as it was sudden. The humans who had become systematic hunters returned to being peaceful traders and diplomats overnight. But across the galaxy, other species had learned something important about humanity. The peace-loving traders and colonists possessed capabilities that most civilizations had never developed. They could coordinate military actions across impossible distances, adapt their tactics in real time, and pursue objectives with absolute determination. Most importantly, they had demonstrated that attacking human civilians carried consequences that no empire could afford to ignore. On New Sol Colony, Administrator Lee Dae-ho stood in the rebuilt town square, where a memorial had been erected to the 7 victims. The names were carved in stone. Dr. Park Ji-woo, Kim Tae-min, Kang Min-ho, Han Seok-jin, Yoon Jae-sung, Song Hye-jin, and Lim So-young children played in the park built around the memorial, their laughter filling the air where gunfire had once echoed. The colony had been rebuilt stronger than before, but the memory of that terrible day remained fresh in everyone's minds. They did not die in vain, Lee said quietly to the memorial stones. The galaxy knows now that human lives have value. No species will make the mistake the Vorthak made. The baby girl who had survived in her mother's arms was now walking and beginning to speak her first words. She would grow up in a galaxy where attacking human civilians was considered one of the most dangerous mistakes any species could make. Fleet Commander Zormek of the Vorthak Empire filed his final report on the human conflict. The species we dismissed as weak traders has proven to be the most effective military force we have ever encountered. Their ability to coordinate across vast distances without central command is unprecedented. Their commitment to stated objectives is absolute. Most importantly, They demonstrated restraint throughout the conflict, harming only military targets while protecting civilian populations. His conclusion became required reading at military academies across the galaxy. Humans do not fight for conquest or glory. They fight to ensure their own safety and security. Any species considering aggressive action against human interests should understand that they possess both the capability and willingness to respond with overwhelming force. The Galactic Council updated its official records to reflect humanity's new status. No longer listed as a minor trading species, humans were now classified as a major military power, with advanced coordination capabilities and proven combat effectiveness. Ambassador Kara Whaling received a new assignment as Earth's first ambassador for military affairs, responsible for ensuring that other species understood humanity's peaceful intentions, while making clear the consequences of attacking human interests. In the years that followed, the New Sol Colony incident became a case study taught in diplomatic schools across the galaxy. It demonstrated how quickly peaceful species could become dangerous when their fundamental security was threatened. The Vorthak Empire survived but was forever changed. They implemented new protocols requiring approval from the highest levels before any military action could be taken against civilian populations. The casual arrogance that had led to the massacre was replaced by careful consideration of consequences. Other species also learned from the incident. Military commanders who had previously viewed humans as easy targets began treating them with the same respect given to major powers. Trade relationships improved as alien governments worked to maintain positive relations with Earth. The transformation was complete. Humanity had earned something more valuable than fear or respect. They had earned understanding. The galaxy now knew that humans preferred peace, but possessed the capability to wage war with terrifying efficiency when necessary. Captain Oh Dong-hyun of the freighter Busan Pride continued his trade routes throughout the galaxy, but now when he docked at alien stations, the local security forces treated him with courtesy and respect. The casual demands and intimidation that human traders had once faced were things of the past. The galaxy is safer for all of us now, he told his crew. 7 good people died to teach an important lesson. Their sacrifice ensures that no other families will face what happened on New Sol Colony. As the red sun set over New Sol Colony, Administrator Lee watched new families arriving to join their community. The settlement was growing again, stronger and more secure than ever before. The children playing in the memorial park would inherit a galaxy where human rights were respected and protected. The 7 victims had been avenged not through revenge, but through justice. Their deaths had transformed humanity's place in the galactic community and ensured that such tragedies would never happen again. In the end, the Vorthak Empire had learned the most important lesson in galactic politics. Some species should never be provoked without cause. And humans, despite their preference for peace, were definitely one of them. 1 year after the Vorthak Empire's surrender, the galaxy had settled into a new balance of power. The incident that began with 7 deaths on New Sol Colony had fundamentally changed how every species viewed humanity and each other. Admiral Yu Sung-min stood in the command center of Earth's newest space station, Unity Base, positioned at the edge of human territory. The massive facility served as both a diplomatic center and a reminder of humanity's military capabilities. Representatives from dozens of alien species came here to negotiate trade agreements and discuss security matters. Admiral, we have a situation developing in the Rigel sector, reported Captain Lee Jun-ho, the station's operations commander. The Cronin hegemony is threatening military action against Zephyrian colonies over mining rights disputes. Admiral Yu studied the tactical display showing the contested region. The Cronin were a warrior species similar to the Vorthak, known for solving problems through intimidation and force. The Zephyrian collective was a peaceful hive-mind civilization that preferred negotiation to conflict. Have the Zephyrians requested assistance? He asked. Not officially, sir. But their ambassador is waiting in the diplomatic quarters. She seems very concerned about the situation. The Admiral nodded. Send word to President An. This could be our first test of the new galactic order. Since the Vorthak incident, Earth had become an unofficial mediator for conflicts between other species. Humanity's demonstrated ability to stop aggressive behavior had given them unique authority in galactic politics. Species that might have ignored diplomatic protests now listened carefully when humans expressed concerns. Ambassador Kara Wei-Ling received the Zephyrian delegation in Unity Base's main conference room. The insect-like aliens communicated through complex chemical signals that their translation devices converted to standard galactic speech. Ambassador Kara, our colonies in the Rigel sector face imminent attack by Kronan forces, explained Hive speaker Zelthus. They claim we have violated ancient territorial agreements, but our records show clear legal rights to those mining operations. What demands are the Kronan making? Kara asked. Complete withdrawal from 3 star systems and payment of substantial compensation for what they call illegal occupation. If we refuse, they threaten to eliminate our settlements by force. Kara considered the situation carefully. The Kronan hegemony had a long history of using military threats to steal territory from weaker species. Before the Vorthak incident, such behavior was considered normal galactic politics. Now things were different. Have you attempted direct negotiation with Kronan leadership? Yes, but they refuse to discuss the matter. War Chief Morgathan says that weaklings like us deserve no consideration. He has given us 7 days to comply with their demands or face total destruction. The number 7 sent a chill through Ambassador Kara. 7 days. 7 victims on New Sol colony. The parallel was uncomfortable and probably intentional. I will consult with Earth's leadership and provide our response within 24 hours, she promised. That evening, President An convened an emergency session of Earth Security Council. The holographic display showed the Rigel sector and the positions of both Kronan and Zephyrian forces. The situation is clear, reported General Nam Un-jung. The Kronan are using the same tactics that the Vorthak employed before we taught them better. They expect weak species to submit to their demands without resistance. Foreign Minister Kim Ye-jin studied the legal documents provided by the Zephyrians. According to galactic law, the mining rights belong clearly to the Zephyrian collective. The Kronan claims have no legal basis. What are our options? President An asked. Admiral Yu activated a tactical projection. We could deploy a peacekeeping force to the disputed systems. Our presence alone might be enough to prevent Kronan aggression. If not, we have sufficient forces in the region to protect Zephyrian colonies. Director Li Huan-su of Colonial Intelligence provided strategic analysis. Sir, this could set an important precedent. If we intervene successfully, other aggressive species will think twice before threatening peaceful civilizations. If we do nothing, the galaxy might return to the old system where military strength determines territorial rights. President An considered the implications carefully. Earth had not sought the role of galactic peacekeepers, but the Vorthak incident had thrust that responsibility upon them. Send a message to War Chief Morgathan. Inform him that Earth supports the Zephyrian Collective's legal rights to those mining operations. Any military action against their colonies will be considered an unprovoked attack on civilian populations. And if he ignores our warning? Asked General Nam. Then we remind him what happened to the last species that thought they could murder civilians without consequences. The human message reached Kronan space within hours. War Chief Morgathan read it with growing anger in his fortress ship Blood Thunder. The massive vessel carried enough firepower to destroy entire planets and was surrounded by a fleet of smaller warships. Humans dare to interfere in Kronan affairs? He roared at his subordinates. These soft creatures think their victory over the weakling Vorthak makes them strong enough to challenge true warriors. General Krektos, his chief military advisor, was less confident. War Chief, our intelligence reports suggest that human military capabilities were underestimated by everyone, including the Vorthak. Perhaps we should reconsider this action. The Vorthak were weak and stupid. We are Kronan warriors bred for battle and trained from birth to conquer our enemies. No species in the galaxy can match our combat skills. But privately, Morgathan was concerned. The systematic elimination of Vorthak forces had been impossible to ignore. If humans could coordinate such precise military operations across vast distances, they might pose a real threat to Kronan expansion plans. War Chief, the humans have deployed a fleet to the contested systems, reported his intelligence chief. 3 heavy crew Sirs and 2 destroyer squadrons under the command of Admiral Chen Wei-hong. Morgathan studied the tactical data. The human fleet was smaller than his own, but positioned to protect all 3 Zephyrian colonies simultaneously. More concerning was the reputation of Admiral Chen, who had led several successful operations against Vorthak forces. Send a message to the human fleet. Tell them to withdraw or face destruction. Admiral Chen Wei-hong received the Cronin ultimatum, while his ships maintained protective orbits around Zephyrian mining stations. His fleet was outnumbered but positioned for maximum defensive effectiveness. "Sir, the Cronin are demanding our immediate withdrawal," reported Captain Park Min-jung of the cruiser, Incheon's Pride. "They claim we have no authority to interfere in their territorial disputes." "Send our standard response," Chen replied calmly. "We are here to protect civilian populations from unprovoked military aggression. The Cronin are welcome to pursue their claims through legal channels. And if they attack anyway?" Chen smiled grimly. "Then we implement the same protocols we used against Vorthak forces. Fast, precise, and absolutely decisive." The standoff continued for 3 days. Cronin ships maneuvered aggressively while human forces maintained defensive positions. Other species throughout the galaxy watched nervously, knowing that this confrontation would determine whether the new galactic order would hold. On the 4th day, War Chief Morgathan made his decision. The Cronin fleet attacked without warning, expecting to overwhelm the smaller human force through superior numbers and firepower. They discovered that humans had learned important lessons from their campaign against the Vorthak. Admiral Chen's ships moved with perfect coordination, concentrating their fire on individual Cronin vessels, while avoiding return attacks through superior maneuverability. The battle lasted less than 2 hours and ended with 7 Cronin ships destroyed, and the remainder retreating in disorder. War Chief Morgathan's flagship limped back to Cronin space with heavy damage and a message that would echo throughout the galaxy. Humans were not just lucky fighters who had defeated weak opponents. They were systematic military professionals who approached warfare like engineering problems. The Cronin government sued for peace within a week. War Chief Morgathan was replaced by more moderate leadership that recognized Zephyrian territorial rights and agreed to pursue future disputes through legal channels. News of the Rigel victory spread quickly through galactic communication networks. For the second time in just over a year, humanity had demonstrated that aggressive species could not attack civilian populations without facing overwhelming retaliation. The psychological effect was profound. Military commanders across the galaxy began updating their strategic assessments of human capabilities. Species that had been planning territorial expansion through conquest reconsidered their approaches. Ambassador Kara filed her report to Earth with satisfaction. The intervention in the Rigel sector was completely successful. Zephyrian colonies are secure, Cronin aggression has been deterred, and other species are taking notice. We may have prevented a dozen future conflicts simply by demonstrating our willingness to protect peaceful civilizations. President An addressed the nation and all human colonies in a broadcast that summarized Earth's new role in galactic politics. 1 year ago, 7 of our people died on New Sol Colony because one species believed that human lives had no value. Today, we prevented the deaths of thousands of Zephyrian civilians because the galaxy now understands that we will not tolerate unprovoked attacks on innocent populations. He paused to look directly into the camera. Earth did not seek the role of galactic peacekeepers, but we will not abandon that responsibility now that it has been placed upon us. Any species that threatens civilian populations will face the same response that the Vorthak and Cronin received. This is not conquest or empire building. This is justice. The broadcast ended with a simple promise that would define humanity's place in the galaxy. We remain peaceful by choice, not by weakness. And we will ensure that peace is protected for all species who respect the rights of others. In the rebuilt settlement on New Sol Colony, children attended classes in the Kim Taiman Memorial School. They learned about Earth's history and humanity's expansion to the stars. But they also learned about the price of peace and the responsibility that came with strength. The 7 victims of the original massacre had become symbols of something larger than revenge or justice. They represented the moment when humanity stopped being passive observers of galactic politics and became active protectors of civilization itself. The galaxy was entering a new age where aggressive species could no longer prey upon peaceful ones without consequence. And at the center of that new order stood humanity, transformed by tragedy into guardians of justice among the stars.